Hello! Today I'm going to show how I made these simple and fun gatefold cards. And these were done with kind of a holiday or Christmas theme in mind, but really this basic layout could be used for so many different themes. They're just a really fun way to make a lot of cards quickly, but yet at the same time, the postage layer squares and that heart pattern plate offer a lot of detail and dimension to the card. I'll show how I cut this heart pattern plate down and it actually works perfectly with this card. I used the smallest of the layered set of the postage squares and then just created a background for that to sit on. The snowflakes were created using the stitched Evangeline snowflake, the largest of the set, and then the Boho snowflake. And I love how these snowflake dies work together to create different unique layers. I actually used a shimmering transparent kind of a vinyl, and I loved how layering those worked out. I wanted to show a third option too. I didn't use this but wanted to show it. This is the Evangeline snowflake over top of the stitched Evangeline, and I loved how those layers looked as well. The Joy die cuts all at once, and there's a lot of different ways that this could be used. You've got the letter, and then there's a little border around the banner that can be used or not. On the red Joy, I did not use it, but you'll see me use it today. The roaming polar bear card was made, using kind of a little variation there, but I had my transparent glitter paper out and just couldn't resist. I loved how that turned out. For the interior panels of the cards, I used the postage rectangle layers along with the polar bear up there to the right. And then for the top panel, I used the Pinpoint rectangle layers. The Folk Merry Christmas I thought was the perfect font to match the craft, even though I did forget to dot the I there. The paper I used was from the little Craft Core book, and there are so many beautiful colors here that all match that crafty theme. And so I just cut out a bunch of squares and just chose colors kind of as I went along. Starting out with an 8.5 by 5.25 piece of paper, I scored at the 2 1/8 and the 6 3/8. The heart pattern plate cuts out a perfect 4.25 by 5.5 rectangle, and we needed to cut this down just a little bit. I started by trimming just the very edge off so that it was right up against the arrow, and I wanted this to be 2 9/16 wide. So it actually worked out perfectly to cut right along the X's. So on one side we've got X's and on the other we've got the arrows. And I'm going to be cutting this in half, so the little swirls straight down the center worked perfectly. In fact, there's two ways to cut these. I first cut them straight down the center, and there were little negative spaces that popped out to kind of create a little dot border there. It wasn't something I planned at first, but I loved the look. The second way you can do this is to not cut it right down the center of those swirls. See, that bottom right one did get cut, but I cut this over just a little bit further to the left so that no negative spaces would fall out of those swirls. The base color is 2.75 by 5.5 inches, just a little bit larger than the top. And then once those are glued together, that's when I went ahead and cut the two halves. And you can see me here popping out those little swirls to create that little border. Now, I did not cut the length at all because the heart pattern plate, if you cut the length, we don't want the effect that this had where little pieces fall out as we liked on that border. I'll show an example of that here in just a second. So here I am just gluing those sides onto the front, and once those were attached, I was able to then just pick out some colors for the words, and then the postage rectangles got glued onto a 1.75 by 1.75 square. Now these joy banners, I was using the border that I talked about earlier, and it's the same color. It's all gold, but the interior letters are going to be red here. Now notice on the O, I did go ahead and fill that with the gold paper, And so it's just basically an inlay effect, and see how I'm kind of lining them up as I glue them so that they're as straight as can be. And just couldn't be easier. Just inlaid those letters and they were done. Next, I wanted to center them, and so only half got glued onto the front. And so to do that, I closed it and then glued it down. Started with the top J and the bottom Y so that the centering of the O would be a lot easier. And then I just went ahead and layered those panels and the words, and the card was done. Now, to show how I made the snowflake, this is a transparent glitter vinyl paper, and it worked really well because when you're looking at it, it doesn't necessarily glimmer much, and you can still see the stitching coming through underneath it. But when the light catches it, it has a very vibrant glimmer. So here's that quick note to self on cutting the length of that heart pattern. Because the patterns are all different along the bottom, you're not going to have that nice even edge as you do when cutting side to side. These cards are the type of card that are so much fun because you just cut a bunch of colors, grab a cup of coffee, and get all of your holiday cards done in an afternoon. They go so quickly and they're really fun to make. So I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.